Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the St. Tammany Parish Zoning Commission meeting of January the 5th. We will have the call-in numbers on the screen here shortly. And if anyone's watching online, they'll be able to call in. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Seeger, Willie,
Here.
Doherty,
Here.
Fitzmaurice,
Here.
Crawford,
Here.
Drum,
Yes.
Randolph, McInnes, Barcelona.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Mr. Ress.
All right, announcements. Please silence all phones on electronics devices. If you disagree with anything this commission makes a decision on, you have the right to appeal it to the council. There are appeal cards on the railing over here to my right. Speaker cards are also there if you wish to speak on any item. You need to complete a speaker card and turn it in so that we can call you up to the microphone. Public speaking, 10 minutes each side and 5 minutes for rebuttal. After the case is heard, we ask that you please exit the building because there may be other people waiting to come in. Please rise for the invocation by Commissioner Randolph and the pledge by Commissioner Willie.
Gracious Father, once again we stand before you with bowed down head but lifted hearts, thanking you for all the blessings you bestowed in our lives. We thank you for your grace and mercy that brought us from last year to this new year. Lord, continue to bless us with peace and with understanding, with prosperity, but yet with safe and healthy lives, Lord. So many have not been able to make it, Lord, but we are here and we thank you. We thank you for this commission. Lord, we thank you for those that's in the audience. We thank you for our government leaders and officials and our staff. Bless us in a mighty way. It's in your holy name. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Commissioners, in the package that was mailed to the House, we did not have copies of the minutes, but there have been copies of the minutes placed at your seat. Hopefully, you know, there's no corrections needed. The minutes are recorded, so I'll look for a motion. Commissioner Randolph.
Motion to approve the minutes as printed.
Okay. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Please vote.
The motion to approve the minutes passes.
Mine was not a nay. I hit the wrong
Oh,
button.
yeah, yours is a nay.
It should be yes.
Okay.
All right, the next thing, which is not on the agenda, but each year at the first meeting of the year, we have to elect chair and vice chair. And we're going to start with the election of the vice chair. Commissioner Fitzmaurice has agreed to that position. Do I hear a motion to appoint? Okay, do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Willie. Please vote.
The motion to elect Mr. Fitzmaurice as vice chairman passes.
Thank you. All right, the next is the chair, and I'm going to turn the meeting over to the vice chairman, Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Do I have a motion to reappoint Dave Doherty as chairman?
I make the motion to reappoint Dave Doherty.
Motion by Commissioner Drum, second by Commissioner Randolph. All vote.
The motion to have Mr. Doherty as chairman carries.
I appreciate the confidence, and we'll try and keep this thing going. Thank you very much. All right, parliamentarian, I'd like to appoint Weldon Crawford on that. We're all going to work together on being the parliamentarian. All right, staff, do we have any cases to be postponed?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. On the third page, item 10 and 11, 2020-2142 ZC and 2020-2143 ZC, which are the same property, and Mr. Paul Marone is here representing the property owner.
Good evening, Mr. Morone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Marone on behalf of the petitioner. In light of the staff's reports on both of these cases, as you probably noted, there were a number of concerns that they brought up. We'd like the opportunity to have some time to try to address some of those concerns, work with them as well as with Ms. Casabon, the council member. So we'd ask for your consideration to table these cases until your next meeting, please.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on postponing these two cases? All right, I'll read the 2142 into the record. 2020-2142-ZC. Existing zoning is A1 and A2. Proposed zoning is A4, single-family residential. Location, parcel located north and south sides of MP Planche Road, west of Louisiana Highway 25, Covington, Ward 3, District 3. It's 134.73 acres. Petitioner is Corey Herberger, and the owner is Dawn Kane, Council District 3. I need a motion to postpone till the next meeting. Let me hold up just a minute. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against the postponing? Yes, sir. Come to the mic.
Hi, I'm Charles Stone. I live in River Park Estates, and I came with the intent to discuss reasons not to accept this planning of 134 acres into the thing. Can we continue to discuss that?
Can we continue to discuss it?
Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, our intent and the request from the attorney for the
I believe that
petitioner.
I believe the members of the neighborhood are concerned about the access to using MP Planche Road as access to this proposed change.
I would suggest on that you get with your council person and, let her know what your concerns are.
Who's that I should contact?
Pardon?
Who should I contact?
Your council person, Martha Casabon. Do you know Ms. Casabon?
No.
Okay, well, her phone number is on the website, and her name is Martha Casabon. There's some other problems that
Okay.
seems to our staff has problems with, so.
Okay, so we bring that up to her before the next meeting when you'll discuss this
You're right.
tabled action.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else wishes to speak for or against on postponing? Commissioner Willie.
Move to postpone.
Motion by Commissioner Willie to postpone. Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Please vote. This is postponing till the next meeting.
The motion to postpone to next month has carried.
Thank you. Pardon? Yeah, that's just on 2142. Next item, the requested postponing is 2020-2143-ZC. Existing zoning is A4, single-family residential. Proposed zoning is A4, single-family residential, and PUD, Planned Unit Development Overlay. Parcels located on the north and south sides of MP Blanchet Road, west of Louisiana Highway 25, Covington, Ward 3, District 3. It's 134.73 acres. Petitioner is Corey Herberger, and the owner is Don Kane. Again, this is Council District 3. Anyone wish to speak for or against? Mr. Morone, you have any other comments on this? No further. Okay, all right. Seeing no one wishing to speak, I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Randolph.
Motion to postpone for 1 month, next month's meeting.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Randolph to postpone for 1 month, which will put it to our next meeting. Commissioner Willie.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Willie. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to postpone for 1 month carries.
Thank you. Staff, is there anything else?
No.
Okay. All right. So those of you that were here for that case, if you have nothing else, you're welcome to leave the building. All right, the first item is zoning change request cases. It's 2020-2090-ZC. Existing zoning is A2 Suburban District. Proposed zoning is HC3 Highway Commercial District. Parcel located on lots 15 and 16 on the north side of Robinwood Lane and the east of Chestnut Street, Covington, Ward 3, District 5. It's 0.89 acres. The petitioner is Mary Robin and the owner is Mary Robin, Council District 5. Anyone here representing?
Would you like to hear staff comments?
Oh, yes, staff comments, thank you.
The subject property is currently developed with a single-family residence. The site is surrounded on the southeast and north side with some properties zoned HC3 Highway Commercial. There's also a single-family residence to the west. A zoning change to HC3 would allow for the location of large-scale, heavy commercial, retail, office, and service uses. As such, staff is not in favor of the request and recommends that the applicant amend the request to change the zoning to a less intense commercial zoning designation.
Okay. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I'm John Roban. I represent Mary Roban, and she's the executor of the estate of Earl and Audrey Pichon, who were property owners. This piece of property was residential property formerly, and on the immediate east side is towards Highway 190. There's an automotive dealership that's HC3 zoned already. It's contiguous to this property. On the south side, right across Robinwood Lane, is another piece of property owned by the automobile dealership that is zoned HC3. And on the north side is it's within the Covington city limits. It's commercial as well, and it's the site of Annadale's Plantation Restaurant's parking lot. On the west side, there's a single-family residence that's currently resided by the applicant's sister-in-law, and her name's Sylvia Pichon. And she has no objection to this zoning change. Her property is contiguous to the property in the application. And I brought with me the affidavit of Ms. Sylvia Pichon stating she has no objection to this zoning request. Over the years, this property and the surrounding property has become more and more commercial. And with the exception of the Sylvia Pichon's property, which is contiguous, everything around it is commercial within, I don't know how many blocks radius, but especially up and down the highway. So given that the area has become more and more commercial over the years, we're asking that the same HC3 zoning be given to, this piece of property. And I don't, if you'll need this affidavit, I'll be glad to submit it to.
Yes, turn it into staff there, and that way we'll have it in the records.
And unless you have any questions, that's all I have.
Okay, well, we may have questions, but we've got to see if there's anybody else who wishes to speak.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning change? Anyone wish to speak against? I'll close the floor to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioners, you've seen the staff report. They think it's too dense at HC3. Commissioner Willie.
What's the intent or intended use they plan for this property?
What the owners plan to do is market the property. The automobile dealership that is contiguous to it has expressed some interest in acquiring it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Crawford.
Just a quick question. That was my original question, was what was the plan for the property? Is it the automobile dealership, it's contiguous, but they don't own any of this property at this point, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I agree with you about highway commercial. There's highway commercial and then there's highway commercial. A lot of this is, some of it's HC1, some's HC2. You're asking for HC3. See, I agree with staff. It seems a little bit excessive. An HC2 or something like that seems like it would make more sense to me. That's just my opinion at this point. I won't make a motion. We'll continue discussion.
Okay. Commissioner Ress.
I'm looking at my first concerns were the property that abuts it. And of course, the people that own that lot, concerns that we create a devaluation of their property by putting commercial property next to their home site. But yet you bring in a letter saying that they're okay with it and are actually related to the people, if I understand that correctly. Is that correct?
Yes, and in fact, included in the affidavit, at some point when she sells her property, she's going to apply for a rezoning commercial as well.
Yeah, so that's where the problem, in my mind, will come up. Because then we'll be abutting properties across the street that are, again, we don't like to put commercial right next to residential. It looks like that property across the street from that house. And I could foresee that being a real problem down the road for that person if they understand that trying to get that commercial in here, we'd probably be looking at some kind of buffer for sure at that point, in my mind.
At this point, that property you're talking about is a vacant lot.
It is. There isn't a house there?
No.
I mean, I'm showing it. I mean the property that is the family member or family.
Oh, there's a house on it now.
But I realize across the street, but it's still property that's zoned residential across the street.
Right.
And so, just so you understand, that potentially could be a problem down the road. Okay, trying to get HC3 for that, but that's not what we're here to deal with tonight. As long as the person clearly understood, I'm gonna move to approve.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Ress to approve the HC3, Commissioner Barcelona.
So the auto dealership, right next to the property and across the street, they're both HC3, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. With that, I'll second to approve it.
Okay, second by Commissioner Barcelona. Anyone else wish to comment? Commissioner Willie.
Yeah, I still have concerns about that transition from HC3 to the residential on Chestnut Street. Because I know if that becomes HC3, the next piece will probably request HC3, and that'd be right in front of their property, or the residential area. I would like to see more of a transition, like HC2 or even HC1, instead of HC3. That's just my comment.
Okay. Is that something that you would consider as reducing from the HC3 to the HC2 or 1?
Well, certainly we'd consider anything, but the reason why we're asking for HC3 is because the automobile dealership is HC3, and it's their back parking lot where they park all their inventory. That's the lot that's contiguous to this piece of property, and presumably what they would like to do with it is,
Okay.
that's HC3, so it would be, we feel like it'd be easier, or marketable if this was also HC3, so
Okay.
that they wouldn't have to come in.
Let me ask staff a question here. If it went down to HC2, since it's, I want to say, outdoor storage, can they do that in HC2?
Well, it would be allowed because it is permitted for a car dealership to have a display of vehicles.
Okay. So you'd still be able to have the parking of the inventory?
Well, yeah, if that's what the automobile dealership would want to do with it. But we just don't want them to feel like there's an impediment because it's HC2 as opposed to HC3, if we, once we market the property.
Okay, all right. Well, we got a motion and a second to approve the HC3. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to approve does not carry.
Okay. All right. Pardon? Do you want to amend?
Well, if that's our option, we'll amend to HC2 then.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Willie? All right, per the applicant's request, we will accept the HC2. Do I have a second? Legal?
What's the question?
After his petition's been denied, can he amend from the floor and resubmit essentially? I guess it'd be a question of legal or staff.
Once the motion has been denied, can it be reconsidered by the commission if the petitioner is willing to go to HC2?
That's the question.
I don't have any objection.
I don't think you have a legal notice problem because it was advertised and on the agenda as an HC3, and this would be a downzoning. So I don't think it's a question of legal notice. It's a question of procedure. And I don't know, not having read all the code of provisions in front of me, whether the zoning commission would need a new application from the applicant, or if the commission can consider an amended application at tonight's meeting.
Would it be preferable if the petitioner would just file an appeal to the council?
He could file an appeal to the council and get it straight.
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't know
Ross.
what you meant.
What was the vote count? Did the motion fail to pass, or
The
did
motion-
it pass as a,
No, it failed to pass.
It failed as approved.
so was,
It wasn't denied, it failed to pass.
I mean, I don't have, like she said, the rules in front of her, but I wouldn't have an objection to
Reconsider.
reconsider it.
Reconsider, okay.
Okay, I'll need a motion to reconsider.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Willie to reconsider. Commissioner Randolph. Second by Commissioner Randolph. So we'll need a vote on that. Please vote.
The motion to reconsider carries.
Okay. So we're gonna reconsider this item. And Commissioner Willie, you had,
A motion to approve the HC2 zone.
HC2. Okay?
That's fine.
Okay, second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to HC2 as amended to HC2 carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, the next item is 2020-2061-ZC. Existing zoning is A2 Suburban District. Proposed zoning is PF1 Public Facilities District. Parcel located on the north side of Archie Singletary Road, west of Mockingbird Loop, Pearl River, Ward 6, District 6. It's 3.8 acres. The petitioner is St. Tammany Parish Council. The owner is St. Tammany Parish Recreation District Number 7, Angela Davis. Staff?
The site is currently developed with an inactive recreational facility and baseball field. The purpose of the PF1 Public Facilities District is to allow for institutional uses to the public. The reason for the request is to bring the existing recreational facility into compliance with the correct zoning designation. Staff is not opposed to the request.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone here to represent the district? Yes, sir. I have a card for Aaron Williams. Yes. Is that you?
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Aaron Williams. I'm actually the chairman of Recreation District Number 7.
Okay. And you're just trying to get the zoning correct on this property?
Yes, sir. We're actually trying to get the lights turned back on to use the baseball field that's been inactive for several years. And when we went to turn the power back on, we found out that it had apparently been rezoned as residential, and we were not allowed to play baseball there.
Okay. Well, that happens sometimes, so.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of this zoning change? Anyone wish to speak against the zoning change? I'll close it to the public and bring back, okay. Need to fill out a speaker card. That's all right, come on up. State your name and address.
It's Mary Beth Borneo. I'm at 69526 Blueberry Loop. It's Pearl River, Louisiana. My property is exactly behind the baseball field. Thank you. My property is behind the baseball field. My mother's is exactly next door to the baseball field. We've lived in this neighborhood for 44 years. And we were here in the heyday of when the ballpark was open. And it was a nuisance. Granted, it was activities for children, yes, but also they didn't have proper bathroom facilities. People would knock on our door growing up to come use the bathroom. People would leave trash in our yards. They would leave the lights on all hours of the night. It was a nuisance. And people would urinate on the side of, my dad had a small business in the very front of our yard. People would urinate on his building and block traffic to his small business. So we're opposed to this because it's a nuisance and a light nuisance and a trash nuisance. And this is a neighborhood where there's families. We don't need that kind of traffic in our neighborhood. We want to have a quiet, peaceful country neighborhood. We don't need to have all this car traffic taking up all of our spaces in our homes.
Okay, thank you. Did the other lady wish to speak? Good evening.
I'm Margaret Montemayor, and I live right next door to the ballpark on the corner of Archie and Blueberry Loop. And like I said, like my daughter said, we've been there 44 years, putting up with the ballpark. And when my daughter was little, she played at the ballpark. That was fine. But the kids get finished playing in April, and then the adults would come. They never had bathroom facilities that were, I know Miss Cosi had contributed bathroom facilities. I don't know what happened to them, but they were gone. And so then after the kids were finished playing, the adults had leagues, okay? And my husband had a little TV business, and his shop was on Singletary Road. Well, the people would park right up against the doors to his building, where if he did have a customer, they couldn't get in. And like my daughter said, the adults, and I can't tell you how many times I had to go in my yard, and I'm looking, and there's men walking around in my yard. They're going to the bathroom against my husband's building because the lights are on in the ballpark, but on my side it was a little dark. I mean, so they just came, they picnicked behind, when they put the lights up, the poles that were left, they put on my side of the property. So people figured, oh, this is wonderful, because at some point they used to charge a little bit for people to get in the ballpark. So they would go in my yard, my front yard, and picnic there. Leave all their trash, their baby diapers, whatever. Like I said, this went on for the longest time. I was thrilled to death when they put the one on the highway, because, you know, this is a neighborhood. And sometimes whoever was the last one to leave the ballpark would forget to turn the lights off. So we had lights 50 foot up in the air all night long, right next to us. So, no, I'm opposed to this. What are they planning on doing? Are they planning on putting bathrooms? They planning on playing ball there? What are they planning on doing? Because it's going to be a parking problem. I don't want them parking in my yard.
Okay.
So, what are they planning on doing besides the ballpark?
Well, we'll ask the gentleman that's the chairman of the Rec District 7 that came up before y'all did.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, because
All right.
I definitely don't want it.
Okay.
Been long
We
enough.
understand.
Okay,
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak against? Okay, we'll go to rebuttal. The gentleman that's chairman.
Yes,
So I think you got some questions to answer.
Yes. The planned usage is as a practice facility. There is a restroom building on site. It is inoperable mainly due to the lack of power. The reason that we need a zoning change is at some point, the zoning was zoned to not play baseball. As she said, that park has been there for many, many years. They've been playing there since the 50s, if I'm not mistaken. So this is actually to correct an error that was made at some point when they rezoned the property. But we have a much larger facility in town for games and such. We're looking to expand the practice capabilities for the teams. And we do, again, we have a restroom building there that is currently inoperable for many years. It's part of the problem.
Okay, if power gets turned back on, that will make that building and the restrooms operable?
Well, not just the power. I mean, that's where we need to start. We need to, get power there, then we can go in and fix whatever else needs to be fixed to get it back up. I've been there. I actually live on Blueberry Loop also. I've been there for 10 years. They've never played ball. It's been an overgrown eyesore. It was that way 10 years ago. And We're just trying to get it cleaned back up so it's not an eyesore.
Is there a water well on the property?
I believe there is, not 100% sure, but it does appear that there is. There's no pump on site. It's going to take work to get that, but I don't know what we have yet. The first issue was the rezoning, when, like I say, we went to turn the power on to start and found that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I may answer the question, I think I've spoken with you. I'm Helen Lambert. The site will have to be brought up to standards. Parking will have to be provided. The bathroom facility will have to be upgraded to standards, and the lighting as well. I don't know. I haven't inspected the site as far as looking at the type of lighting that they have, but it will have to be brought up to the lighting requirements that we have in our ordinance, and they will have to provide off-street parking.
Okay, you understand all that?
Yeah, and there is room for a small parking lot. We know that there is not room for 100 people there to go play games and tournaments and all like there was many years ago. We have the facility in town for that. This is gonna be used for, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 kids at a time to practice, to just practice baseball.
Okay.
But yes, we do understand that there's more to it than that, but the first step is coming here.
First step is a possible change in zoning. So.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Let's let the other folks have an opportunity to speak in rebuttal. Yes, ma'am, come back up.
Thank you. I'm sure y'all heard me and my mama grumbling back there. We went to the ballpark, my cousins played ball when we were there. The building that has existed on that property is the old concession stand. There is no bathroom there. It is one building that used to be the concession stand. There's no bathroom facilities there. And frankly, I'm a single person. I live in my home by myself. And I do not like the idea of all these strangers going through my neighborhood, potentially come knocking on my door to come use the restroom. But I just wanted to clarify what exactly that building is out there, because when I was a kid, we went over there and we used it. And the restroom was in a different spot further back. There was a little concession stand, and that's what that is right there. It's not a restroom. So there's no restroom facilities there.
Okay, thank you. All right, we've had rebuttal on both sides. So I want to close it to the public, bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Randolph.
Yes, to the staff, this is for the area, the facility to be in compliance with the correct zoning so that the other things that need to be done can get done.
That's correct.
Okay.
We very clearly informed the rec district that they will have to submit some plans to bring the site up to standards.
Okay. And piggybacking off of that, the responsibility to bring the facility, the parking, the bathrooms, the area, the entire area, seating, whatever, up to standards, whose responsibility is that? I want to make sure is that the parish responsibility or the recreation district?
The recreation district is to provide the required plans to us. We will have to inspect and make sure that it meets all the requirements before we can authorize, the power company to turn the power back on. They'll have to provide the information, regarding the existing building. If there's a bathroom facility, potentially, get an inspection for the existing sewer system. It may have to be brought up to standards.
Okay. Mr. Chairperson, can you come up to, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at the map and so are some of the other commissioners, all the other commissioners, and the two ladies that are stating that they're right in the area where this facility is.
Yes, sir.
how can you accommodate, as a recreation district, the people, the residents that's surrounding the area to avoid what they're saying that they're experiencing?
Well, again, this is not going to be used for games, for tournaments, for anything other than practice. It would be one team at a time, 15 or so kids and their families would be there. The building that we have was, apparently maybe was not at one time, but has been renovated to accommodate bathrooms. They're not currently able to be used because there's no facilities in them. They're empty rooms with plumbing coming out the slabs, but I mean, it can be done. And it would just be a practice facility.
Okay.
And I live on the north side of Blueberry Loop, so I'm right there also.
Okay. Thank you. Because this is to right a situation that had been changed from the past, I'd like to go on and make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Randolph to approve. Commissioner Crawford.
I'll second the motion, but I'd also like to say that I understand the residents' complaints and can certainly appreciate things that have happened in the past. I believe it's on the rec district to be a good neighbor to everybody that's there. So I hope that Mr. Aaron has heard this and will take it upon himself and his organization to be not just a good neighbor, but an upstanding neighbor to the residents there. So hopefully this can get back in, I don't want to say commerce, and in its intended use, and can serve everybody in the community. So I'll second that motion.
Okay, Commissioner Drum.
One of the two ladies, I'm sorry I don't know your names, I'll either talk to the daughter or the mother. Could you come up here, please? And could you take your mask off so I can hear you?
Sorry, I don't want to get sick, man.
No, you're inside our
Okay.
chamber of silence. Was the baseball field there before you, or were you there before the baseball field?
We lived in that neighborhood. We moved to that neighborhood when I was a baby. I'm 45 years old.
Yeah, but that, well, was
So
the
it's always
space-
been there,
it's-
yes.
It was there before you were?
Yes.
So when your folks moved there, they knew that the field was there?
I guess so. Was it there? It really wasn't used, she said.
Okay, well, I have written down in my little red pen here. I would like to know from the gentleman, please. I don't have his name either. May I have him up here?
Aaron.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't know your name. I apologize.
Aaron Williams.
Aaron, thank you
Yes.
very much. When baseball season is over, will you then use this facility for practicing football?
No.
No other thing except baseball?
Baseball, ultimately down the road, I'd love to see a small playground, swing set, slide type thing somewhere in the corner of it. But no, as far as the high traffic would be strictly a baseball practice.
Okay, when you also said that you have other facilities for playing the actual games.
Yes.
How many?
It's the large facility, it's actually next on the agenda also. We have four baseball fields, and then we have a multi-purpose soccer football field.
Okay. If this does not go by, what have you been using for practice right now?
We use the facilities that we have. The issue is with travel teams. There's much more travel teams than the rec teams. And they just are always looking for a practice facility.
So you would not always be there when it was practice going on? Who would control the entry and exit? Who would control the lights? And how would that go? How would you keep other
That would be in a contract with the teams that would be using the facilities.
Well, who would control when they weren't using it? Just some person going in there with their families or other groups and doing this, like maybe some beer drinking gentlemen?
I guess that would have to be with the sheriff's department. If somebody, it is.
It would be a public facility.
It would be open for public facilities. We would have signage posted for the same rules as that we have on our other road, other fields. No alcohol. We don't allow pets. Lots of other, no profanity, stuff like that. I mean, we would have the same rules. We would have the trash facilities and the restrooms and everything. Whatever we need to do.
How many people do you think you'd actually have here max at one time?
Like I say, 15 or so kids, and then their families for practice. It would not be two teams at one time. It would be one team.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Anything else, Kirk?
No, sir, I'm trying to turn off my doohickey here.
Commissioner Barcelona.
I have a question for Mr. Williams. At the current site, is there fencing around the site? Or is it a secure site? Is there a locked gate?
The field
Anything like that?
itself is fenced.
Okay.
It is damaged in several locations. The parking lot area is not. It is open. There's not much of a parking lot, but there is some culverts there, and a small, old paved pad underneath the grass.
Okay. Do you plan on putting a gate that could be locked, overnight, or is it just? Are you going to have access 24 hours a day, or what's the plan for that?
I mean, we're going to leave the parking open the same as we do at our other location. The field itself is open. It would be maintained again. I mean, that's the biggest thing. We don't have too many people to maintain it because it's not being used, and it has been an eyesore.
Will you have signage that gives hours of operations and?
We will get all of that and listing the rules that we have. I mean, it would be the same thing that we list on our other. I don't currently have that in front of me, but
Okay.
yes, it would have what is allowed, what's not allowed, on the signs at the gates.
So after a certain time, then people wouldn't be allowed at the site, and that would be clearly posted, or is
Yes,
that
yes, that is
part
correct.
of your part of the district's rules?
That
currently?
is correct.
Okay. All right. That's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Willie.
Mr. Williams, don't go
Okay.
yet. I noticed that, what about the lighting, the ballpark, the field lights? Y'all gonna be putting up new field lights, or are there existing ones there? I don't know.
There is some old existing stuff. I personally wouldn't trust it. That's going to be one of the first things that we start taking down. As far as new lighting, we'll have to see how that goes with financing and stuff.
Well,
Those are really, really expensive. So probably right off the bat, we would not be after dark.
Well, that was my concern, since it's a practice field, I didn't know if he was gonna install new lighting where, I know that's gonna be a major concern for the residents around there.
Yes,
Is
yes.
the lighting.
Yes.
And, I imagine, okay, that's all I have, but staff, there are rules in place for the type of lighting that they would have to put up if they decide to put up lights, right?
Absolutely. They will have to supply a lighting plan, and it will have to meet the requirements, and they have to be turned off after a certain time, and our ordinance addresses that very clearly, and it cannot shine on the abutting properties. So-
Okay, and another question to staff is I noticed it's a little bit less than 4 acres, and it looked like about half of it's wooded, mostly around the perimeters. Is there, what type of buffer zone we have in PF1?
Is the same buffer zone as a commercial development.
Which is?
So, they will have, I don't know what the depth is, but potentially, they'll have a front buffer along the road along Blueberry Loop, and then they'll have side and rail buffers as well.
Okay, well, I guess the buffers between the residences and the field is what I'm more concerned about, you know, so is that a no-cut buffer?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
But it's, they have to keep all the trees over 6 inches in caliber.
Okay, 'cause it
And
looks
it's-
like it's wooded along the perimeter, and that would be you know, a help for the residents. you know,
It's,
in that
it's to
area.
their advantage to keep the trees, because then they wouldn't have to replant as well.
Right, okay, thank you.
Commissioner Randolph.
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Rest.
Yeah, I just have, I'm trying to understand this piece of property kind of historically, and I know as I grew up as a kid, if there was an empty lot somewhere, it didn't matter what it was, we were playing in it. We played ball in it, we played football in it. Doesn't mean it was zoned for what we were doing, but that's what we did. And so I'm trying to understand this piece of property. Has it always been zoned residential, but was used as a ball field for the neighboring community? Or was it owned by a recreational district or something forever?
Well, if I may answer that question, the property was previously zoned rural, which a recreational facility was permitted in a rural area at the time,
Okay.
under
but-
that rural
So
zone.
who was it owned by?
Well, it's currently owned by,
No, historically, how was it? Was it just an empty lot that was zoned rural that somebody used for playing baseball and nobody ever complained, so it just became a baseball field?
you can tell by the aerial that, you know, there's a diamond, you know, on the field. So at some point, it was developed as a baseball field. I don't know the history of ownership. Maybe Mr. Williams can confirm that.
So what I'm trying to understand here, are we making something right or are we making something new? And that's what I'm not getting a real clear picture on here. Is this a piece of property that was just a piece of rural property that somebody made a baseball field in, and whoever owned the property said, yeah, you can put a baseball field out there, but it's just a piece of, but was it part of a recreational district, or did it have some formalized use?
Yes, sir, it did. It was, whenever they subdivided that small area of Bluebird and Mockingbird Loop, that property was originally donated to an organization at the time. I believe that was in the 50s or 60s. I don't remember offhand. It has changed hands to whatever was the current recreation at the time. Sixth Ward Baseball Organization was the latest one before the St. Tammany Rec District number 7 was formed for the area. And the property has changed hands from each organization throughout the years. And this has been developed as, and if you look at the original subdivision of the neighborhood, it clearly says on the plot that was for a field use.
Okay, thank you. I'm not as optimistic as you are that it'll stay a partially used training facility, because I see as the parish continues to grow, there'll be pressures to use these more so. So betting on that being probably how soon that will be, but at some point I foresee the usage will increase just because everything in the parish seems to go that way. So I'm a little less optimistic than you are about that, but I appreciate your, thank you.
Okay. All right, there's no one else in the queue, so I'll call for the vote. Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you. All right. All right, the next item is 2020-2062-ZC. Existing zoning is A3, Suburban District. Proposed zoning is PF1, Public Facilities District. Location, parcel located on the east side of Louisiana Highway 41 south of Sid Crawford Road, Pearl River, Ward 6, District 6. It's 73.567 acres. Petitioner St. Tammany Parish Council. Owner St. Tammany Parish Recreation District Number 7, Angela Davis. Council District Number 6. Staff?
The site is currently developed as a recreational facility and a park and ride for St. Tammany Parish Recreational District 7. The reason for the request is to bring the existing recreational facility into compliance with the correct zoning, and staff is not opposed to the request.
Thank you. All right, sir. We're gonna get some exercise for you tonight. Thank you.
All right, again, I'm Aaron Williams, the chairman for Recreation District Number 7. The same thing, this is actually our main park facilities, where we do play baseball, football, soccer. We host our events, tournaments. This is where we have the concession stands, the big, large restrooms, everything else, and all the current lighting.
Okay.
We're just trying to get it corrected again because we found it all at the same time.
All right, thank you. All right, anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of this change? Anyone wish to speak against? Seeing no one, I will close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Randolph.
Yes, sir. This is really a nice facility as it is, and I know what you guys making the zoning change, you guys going to make it even, enhance it even more so. Nice facility right off of Highway 41. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Randolph to approve. Commissioner Willie.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Willie. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you. All right, next item is 2020-2119-ZC. Existing zoning is A1A Suburban District and RO Rural Overlay. Proposed zoning is PF1 Public Facilities District. Location, parcel located on the east side of Louisiana Highway 437, north of Knights Road and south of A.W. Galloway Road, Covington, Ward 2, District 2. It's 9.65 acres. The petitioner is John P. Taylor. The owner is St. Tammany Parish Fire District Number 6, John P. Taylor. Council District 2. Staff?
The site is currently developed with a single-family residence, and although it's flanked by property that's zoned A1A, the immediate area along the corridor is lined with existing commercial zoning designations. The purpose of the request is to accommodate a potential fire station for the area, and as such, staff is not opposed to the request.
All right, thank you. Mr. Taylor. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
All right. So what are we doing?
Well, we are developing a property for a fire station in the future and a training facility. Thus 9.65 acres.
Okay, you said you're going to want to put a training facility there as well?
We're going to call it a training facility. As you know, we're governed by PIL, which they give you points for your rating to help with fire protection and to decrease insurance rates. So because our proposal is to have at least 2 acres to be proposed as a training center, which is no more than a gravel parking lot, that starts giving us points towards our rating to help decrease it.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak for? Anyone wish to speak against? Close it to the public, bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Yes, this is a good addition to the community. I move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Willie to approve. Commissioner Randolph.
Yes, Mr. Taylor. Mr. Taylor, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
At this location, Highway 437, what is the closest fire station to this in proximity?
There's a fire station down the street at the, near the intersection of 437 and Highway 40. And that would be north of Million Dollar Road, south of Highway 40. That is the existing station now. The problem with that station is landlocked. We have no room for expansion because of it just is landlocked. And it's a piece of property that was donated years ago, before my time, to the fire district. So what we have on that site is 2 bays to put fire trucks. There's no place to accommodate paid staff to house firefighters. There's no room to grow. So our proposal is, and we use a reporting system that actually maps out where our highest call volume is. And for that particular protection area, where we're proposing the new station is the busiest spot on the map for that station. So that's why we picked the property.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. With that, I'll second that motion.
Okay. Commissioner Ress.
Yeah, I have one question for you just got me thinking on the training portion, made me a little uncomfortable for a minute. You're not planning on doing any firefighting training, like
Yes, sir.
live fighting? Are you planning on that on this property?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You are, live?
Yes. And we've spoken to the only neighbor that it would be in the proximity, and he has no issue with it. So it's not going to be an everyday occurrence, you know. We will have probably other districts coming in to use it. That's what the goal is, because the northern part of the parish, there's not a lot for the other districts to use. But I don't think most of the firefighting is not burning stuff. It's more like a theatrical smoke, smoke machines that course. So you're really not actively burning a real fire. Sometimes we may, it just depends.
Yeah, it's a concern. I personally have attended several firefighting schools over time, and generally they burn diesel and things like that, and it's not a very pretty sight for people in the area.
That's the newest technology is you utilize LPG or propane, which is a much cleaner burning fuel for the heat effect or anything like that. So if there's any fuel to be utilized, it would be in that capacity.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, anything else, Ken? No, that's all. Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you. All right, next item is 2020-2126 ZC. Existing zoning is I-1 Industrial District. Proposed zoning is HC3 Highway Commercial District, partial located on the west side of North Collins Boulevard, being 1930 North Collins Boulevard, Covington. Ward 3, District 2, it's .68 acres. The petitioner is SVS Tangi 1 LLC, Dwayne Schwartz, and the owner is the same. Council District 2, staff?
The property was subject to a previous rezoning from HC2 to I-1 Industrial in 2015. The site is currently developed with a commercial building, and the owner is requesting to rezone to HC3. Staff has no objection to the request, considering that the site is surrounded by a mix of commercial and industrial uses and is appropriate along the commercial corridor.
Okay. Dwayne Schwartz, are you in the audience? Yes, sir. Come to the mic. Good evening.
Chairman. My name is Bradley Cook with Sterling Properties. I am the agent of record for Mrs. Schwartz. The goal here is simply just to get it back to the zoning that it previously had with highway commercial.
Okay,
That's our only intention, so I just want to make sure that was on the record.
okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anyone wish to speak against? I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Helen, on our zoning handout, all the gray, that's city limits of Covington?
That's correct.
Boy, that's a spotted area. I don't know how it ever got like that.
If I'm not mistaken, it was a drive-through restaurant at some point, and then it was rezoned for an outdoor storage yard.
I'm talking about the whole area in that area, the way
Oh,
all
the
the
whole
gray,
area, yeah.
gray is all throughout, and we got parish zoning all throughout the city limits there, it looks like.
Yeah, for some reason, it's
It's
always been
crazy,
in the
huh?
parish.
Oh, yes, this is less than an acre, and it's appropriate. I move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Willie to approve. Commissioner Crawford.
I'll second the motion.
Second by Commissioner Crawford. Commissioner Barcelona.
I have a question for the petitioner. You mentioned that you wanted to bring the property back to the highway commercial district zoning, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
It was previously HC2,
That's correct.
is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But you're requesting HC3?
It-
What's the reason?
It expands
for that
us a little
request?
bit more, gives us a little bit more opportunity to find a tenant for that space. Our issues have been, as we begin marketing for this, is that any tenant would have to come in and rezone it. Most of the industrial tenants, the property is too small to use for industrial use for what they're looking for in terms of laydown yard, et cetera. So it makes a whole lot more sense at this location for it to be highway commercial. HC3 gives us a little bit more opportunity of what those potential tenants could be.
What facility is currently there?
It's vacant right now.
Oh, it's
This is
vacant, okay.
formerly the Ziegler Tree Building.
Okay.
And Ziegler was a tenant in that building and has since, built their own
But
space.
the building is still there and?
That's correct. Yeah, and it was, I heard someone mention, I think Helen said it, but it was originally Crunchy's Chicken, so it was a drive-through originally and built for that use.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second to approve. Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you. All right, item 6, 2020-2137-ZC. Existing zoning is A4 Single Family Residential and NC1 Professional Office District. Proposed zoning is NC4 Neighborhood Institutional District. Location, parcel located on the northwest corner of South Military Road and Ranch Road, Slot L, Ward 8, District 13. It's .55 acres. Petitioner is Rico Impasta, and the owner is Rico Impasta. Its council district is 13. Staff?
The property is currently undeveloped and abuts single-family residences to the west, townhomes to the north, and undeveloped property to the east. And there's also an existing commercial development to the south. The purpose of the requested zoning change to NC4 is to allow for the location of services to the nearby residential uses. Staff is not opposed to the request, considering that the site fronts on a state highway and also is adjacent to commercial development to the south and multifamily residential to the north.
All right, thank you. Mr. Impasta? Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm Rico Impastato, and pretty straightforward. What I'm looking to do is rezone all 4 lots as NC4. Currently, the front 2 lots on Military Road are zone commercial, the back 2 are zone residential. They're contiguous, and what I would like to do is put a building on there, primarily for my clinic, but also to have some retail space as well.
Okay. What kind of clinic?
Chiropractic clinic.
Chiropractic clinic. We could all probably use that, then. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Tim Matty? Matty? Please come to the podium.
He's not sure.
He's, not sure. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name's Tim Mady. I live at 128 Goldenwood Drive, which is really going to be adjacent to the property. When they cleared the lot, I talked with some of the individuals. They thought it was going to be residential. Be honest with you, I got on your website, and I do have to give kudos to the St. Tammany about, giving these out, because I would have never known about this meeting. But can you describe to me what neighborhood institutional district is?
Ellen?
It allows for small commercial uses, and if you want to just give me 1 second, I will pull it up on the screen here to give you a better idea. It allows for small offices as well as small retail. You may also have a dance studio, a church, a daycare, and as I said, other small retail uses and offices.
See, hey, I love kids. I got grandkids. But, I don't want to have a daycare sitting behind my house. I've been there over 35 years. And 5 days a week hearing kids screaming and yelling for 6-8 hours. Or even a restaurant. I mean, I don't have a problem driving past a Popeyes, smelling the chicken, or driving past Burger King, but having a McDonald's or something like that in my backyard, I have a problem with it. And then,
Just south of this property, you got Ranch, and then on down you got Chench's Creek. The piece of property at Chench's Creek and Military is zoned NC4, if that tells you anything.
I'm sorry?
The property at Chench's Creek and Military Road, which is south of the piece of property we're looking at that the gentleman's wanting to have rezoned to.
Oh, no, this is up on Ranch.
I understand that, okay? But so you have an idea of what could go there?
Oh, yes, I understand that.
That NC4 south of there, that building, I'm not sure what it is, at Chench's Creek and Military, okay? That is zoned NC4,
Correct.
okay? You have any other questions?
Well, no, my only concern was what kind of businesses were actually going. I don't have a problem with the chiropractic clinic. But I do have a problem with fast food, any kind of a restaurant. I mean, I don't have rodents now, and I don't want to see any. Plus with the drainage, I mean, I haven't seen any plans at all.
Well, there's no plans at this point.
No plans at this point.
No, sir.
So do I get a chance to look at all the plans? Because I don't have a drainage problem now, and I don't want to see one either.
Well, yeah, it'll have to come back through the planning commission.
So it's my responsibility to keep tabs on this then?
Yeah, it'll be posted again.
Oh, it will be posted?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ellen?
It will not come back in front of the zoning commission,
Planning commission,
nor planning.
North Planning Commission.
You'll have to comply with the code, but not.
It'll have to comply with all of the current codes, okay, which mentioned drainage, it has to have a 25% reduction of previous, in other words, it has to reduce the drainage outflow by 25%,
Okay.
okay? So they can't just run water over on your property,
Right.
okay?
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, anyone else in the audience wish to speak either for or against? I'll close it to the public, bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Crawford.
I had a question for Mr. Impastato. So you said the property consists of 4 lots. Are you planning to construct on 4 lots, or are you planning to consolidate, or how many facilities are you planning to see on this property?
Well, we're going to do whatever we can do within the code, of course. Obviously, some of it's going to have to go to parking, some of it's going to have to go to green space, and some of it will go to building. So at this point, I'm not really sure how many square feet we'll put toward building, but we'll do whatever we can do within the law.
So one of the buildings will be your clinic?
Well, it would be one building, I'm assuming.
One building, okay. One building with perhaps multiple spaces?
Correct.
Okay, okay. All right, with that, I move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Crawford to approve. Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner Barcelona, do you have anything? Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you. Have
Thank
a good
you.
evening. All right, item 7, 2020-2139-ZC. Existing zoning is A2 Suburban District. Proposed zoning is HC2 Highway Commercial District. Location, parcel located on the north side of Louisiana Highway 22, east of Louisiana Highway 1085, Madisonville, Ward 1, District 1. It's 7 acres. The petitioner, John Crosby. The owner is Crosby Development Company, LLC, John Crosby. Council District 1. Staff?
The petition property is currently developed with a single-family residence and is also surrounded by properties that are zoned residential. The purpose of the HC2 zoning designation is to allow for the location of intense retail, office, and service uses. Although the property is located along State Highway 22, staff is not in favor of the requested zoning change, as it would allow for more intense commercial uses to develop in the area surrounded by residential zoning.
All right, thank you. Mr. Crosby or somebody representing him here?
It's Mr. Crosby.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm John Crosby, representing Crosby Development. The first thing I want to say is I agree with Helen's assessment of what the zoning could allow, which is why we are proposing deed restrictions on the property. This just happens to be the type of zoning that we need for the use. We reached out to all the property owners around there. We emailed out our conceptual plans. I've personally spoken with several of the residents in the area. We're planning a high-end storage facility for boats and RVs. It's actually going to be climate controlled. It's going to be nicely done. There'll be a buffer, 100-foot buffer of trees and ponds along Highway 22. The elevation of the property is high. The buildings will be around 21 feet above sea level. Unlike what you have down in Madisonville, when there's a storm, everybody's trying to move their boats and move everything out of the way. We think this is going to fill a need that exists in the area. We're, as I mentioned, a nice streetscape, landscaping, fountains, ponds. Across the rear of the property, there's a stand of really large live oak trees. Those will be preserved. The question came up about lighting. We'll use down lighting, no light pollution. We're sensitive to that. We're also adjacent to a parcel that has a 250-foot antenna on it. And I don't think residential zoning on our piece is appropriate being next to that kind of use, even though that is zoned residential. It's a tower. I've got some. We sent packets. I don't know if anybody's in the audience that didn't get one of the packets. I'll be glad to hand it to them. But I've got some maps in here where it's located, a conceptual plan. Hopefully that got to the commission members. You got to see that. Let me see what else. The deed restrictions that we propose are strictly this use, or let me put it the other way around, prohibit other uses under HC2. A maximum of 25 storage units per acre. which these are not going to be small units. These are going to, smallest units, 30 by 15. It's not going to be a whole bunch of little 5 by 5 and 5 by 10 units. A maximum height of 25 feet for the building, where even residential zoning allows 35 feet. The allowable setbacks with residential would be 50 feet in the front. We're going to deed restrict to make it 100. Sides is 15, we're going to make it 25. Rears, 25, we're going to make it 30. So we're making ourselves, make it more restrictive even than what's allowed under residential. There's always questions of drainage. We actually surveyed the drainage on Highway 22 from the property all the way west down to the creek where the drainage flow goes now, to make sure that it could accommodate what we propose. Actually, right now, the property drains kind of to the north, off the back of the property, away from the street. But we're going to put it back where it belongs in the swales along Highway 22. I've actually spoken with Parish Engineering about that already, and they're on board with that conceptual drainage plan. I've got some, I have some diagrams in the packet that show that. Traffic, again, always a question. We did a traffic study already. The use that we're proposing is, let's just say a residential use in that property would be 4 times the amount of traffic than what we're proposing. Even with the current A2 zoning, you could, let me back up 1 second. We actually acquired another 2-acre piece of the property, so it's really going to be 9 acres total. There's another case coming that you guys are going to see in next month. So I'm talking in terms of the whole project at 9 acres. It could have 9 residential homes and 9 garage apartments. It's allowed in A2. So you could theoretically have 18 residential units, who again create 4 times the amount of traffic than what we're proposing. I also have our traffic engineer here to answer questions if there's any question about that. I'll do this quick. I know, I've got some numbers on annual property taxes. This will generate $116,000 a year in property taxes, $31,000 for schools, $36,000 for police and fire, $31,000 for drainage recreation, plus about $125,000 in initial impact fees when we get our permits. That's going to go towards roads and improvements in the parish. There are a lot of other bad things that could happen in residential right there too. They could wind up being an electrical substation. That's allowed right there. I mean, it's just, people need to consider other possible uses. It doesn't mean it's just residential. I even did a diagram of what 9 lots could look like on that property. And it wouldn't have buffer zones. You wouldn't have green space on Highway 22. You'd have a fence in the side of a house probably within 15 feet of the property line. So that's what our intention is. We will record the deed restrictions prior to the council meeting so that they're in place. There's no backing out. But we're going to do what we say we're going to do. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Crowder. All right, let's see if we've got, I've got 2 speaker cards here. Is there anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of this project? All right, I've got Janelle Rayford Landwehr. Good evening. You wish to speak against, right?
Can you all understand me with this mask on? Oh, it's so bad. Being a vain lady, I don't have much makeup on underneath here, so bear with me. Okay. I sent you all a letter today opposing this, and unfortunately, something happened to my computer, and it was returned to me saying undelivered. So if it's okay, I'd like to read to you all the letter that I attempted to send you today.
Okay.
Okay, I'm one of the property owners adjacent to the 7 acres acquired by the Crosby Development. Mr. Crosby attempted to change the zoning to commercial to place a boat and RV storage shed, which you all know. The property has been in our family since May 1st, 1861, by a land grant from Abraham Lincoln, which we have a map and signatures dating back then. We feel that this should remain residential. And let me just say, this 7 acres was originally my grandmother's house. and it's adjacent to the farm that we own, which was part of almost a 100-acre tract. We remained the owners of the 18 acres adjacent to this parcel. The other land, which is north of this piece, was developed by my brother and my nieces and nephews, and it is now Rayford Oaks. Some of you all may be familiar with that. Rayford Oaks, which fronts on Brewster Road. The property went all the way through to 22. Okay, so that's just a little bit of history about this property. In Rayford Oaks, there's 140 homes approximately. So that's quite an amount of taxes every year that comes to you all to help us maintain roads and other things. And we are not particularly interested in selling our 18 acres, but in the event we would want it to be also a residential, maybe subdivision, that would bring more tax dollars to our parish. So Mr. Crosby stated, and I won't read all of this, but he did state about the tower. There is a tower adjacent to this property. It's on an 8-acre tract, which is owned by my cousin, and the tower sits at the very rear of the property all the way to the east. And it's approximately, 100 yards from Mr. Crosby's property. The tower sits to the rear of my cousin's place, and it is about 500 feet from the tower. So the tower, of course, is visible from the highway if you look up, but if you didn't, you would never know the tower was there. So anyway, we are requesting that you please consider keeping this the zoning that it is. I know Mr. Crosby approached several people and said, you know, he'd never put a service station there, or that he would put something in the restrictions that would not allow other things that are there. But let me just say, this was my grandmother's residence for many years until she died. And then one of the family members, a daughter, bought the property. Somewhere in the deed, it said the property could never be sold except to another family member. Well, your attorneys here can probably tell you that did not hold up. She sold it to Mr. Crosby. I tried to buy it, but she sold it to Mr. Crosby. So let me just say, on that note, some of you all may know me, but you may not. I know Mr. Shane in the audience does. And I've been in the judicial system in the 22nd Judicial District Court for 57 years. Probably Mr. Shane doesn't know that. But 36 of those years I sat in the courtroom, and I know that phrase in that deed would not hold up, even though our family members were hoping it would. So I don't know if it would hold up with what Mr. Crosby wants to put in there. So after sitting in the courtroom for 36 years, and then I retired, and I'm currently the jury coordinator for the 22nd Judicial District Court. And I told them I would do that until they found someone else, and that was 21 years ago. So I've heard a few court cases in my life. And several of my nieces and nephews, I think, sent emails to you all. My brother, who was going to come with me tonight, but he ended up on a deer stand. So I'm here to speak for the family and sincerely hope that you all will consider leaving this as is. And like I said, we're not interested in selling our 18 acres, but in the event we did, we would want it to be a smaller subdivision and equally as beautiful and nice as Rayford Oaks is.
Okay,
Any questions for me?
not right now, thank you.
Okay.
We have a Stephanie Kovac. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. And you got that right, by the way. It's
Oh, did I?
Kovac. My name is Stephanie Kovac. I'm a resident of Timber Lane subdivision, which is directly across the street from the lot. And I'm adamantly opposed to this lot being rezoned commercial. The developer says it won't generate new traffic in the area. I don't believe that's possible. Any commercial building on this lot will undoubtedly create higher traffic volume turning on and off of 22. The bigger issue is we're not just talking cars, but RVs and pickup trucks towing travel trailers with boats, 225 of them entering and exiting on and off of Highway 22 at any given time. And given the size of some of these storage sheds, we're talking RVs and boats greater than 40 feet long. I would ask that each of you take into consideration that the driveway for this storage facility will be approximately 2/10 of a mile, 2/10 from what many would argue is the most dangerous intersection in St. Tammany. There have already been 3 fatalities where 1085 meets 22. Neither an RV or a pickup towing a trailer with a boat can turn quickly onto 22 and quickly get up to the posted 55-mile-per-hour speed. A boat and RV storage shed is asking for more trouble on 22 and potentially putting lives in danger, particularly those in my subdivision who will bear the greatest impact. Furthermore, I question the need for another such facility in the first place. There are already 2 new boat storage sheds proposed on 22, approximately 2 miles in either direction. It's my understanding from the developer that if this zoning request is not approved, the land could be used to build 9 residential houses. No one will ever make me believe, and that includes any traffic study, that the volume of traffic created by 9 homes would be greater than that generated by a 225-unit storage facility. But the bigger issue is that vehicular traffic from those homes could not possibly be more dangerous than 40-foot-long RVs and boats turning on and off of Highway 22. I don't know that any one of you would approve this request if this gigantic storage facility was going to be built directly across the street from your home. I'm certain that you wouldn't. I'm certain the developer wouldn't want it across the street from his home either. And I'm begging that you not allow it across the street from mine. Finally, I would add that the growth in the community of Madisonville is absolutely out of control. There are only 2 ways in and out of Madisonville. Both are 2-lane roads. Madisonville does not have the infrastructure to handle the kind of residential or commercial growth the parish is permitting. And if you keep allowing the destruction of whole forest of trees, we're not going to have adequate flood protection or drainage either. I don't feel that any of this is in the name of progress. I think it's a money grab for the parish based on the tax revenues that Mr. Crosby cited. Everyone in this room knows that the parish stands to gain more economically from a development of a 225-unit storage facility than 9 residential homes. I'm asking that you put people first, I'm asking that you put safety first, and I'm asking that you deny this zoning request.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak against? I don't have any more speaker cards, so we'll go to rebuttal.
I'll make one more comment.
You'll have an opportunity here in rebuttal.
Going to let Rebecca Lala, our traffic engineer, just briefly address the traffic, this question.
Hi, how are you? Rebecca Lalo's Quality Engineering and Surveying. I performed the traffic study for this development. The trips are based on standard, industry standard, based on formulas in the trip generation manual. This is how all traffic studies are performed for any development whatsoever. So they're just standard formulas from 3 volumes of books. So that's where the numbers came from. We did numbers for mini storages, 175 units, 225 units, and then the single-family detached housing for 9 units and 18 units. So that's where the, I assume y'all have these numbers in front of you. Basically, in the AM peak hour, the mini storages creates one, with the 225 units, creates 1 vehicle in the AM peak hour, 6 in the PM peak hour.
Mini storage does not have the same peak hours usually as the adjacent street, the main thoroughfare. And then the single-family detached housing for 18 would be total 18 in the AM and 20 in the PM. So that's.
We had a couple more minutes. Just want to rebut a couple of points. First of all, I reached out to the Rayford family to meet with them and talk about what their concerns were 2 months ago, and repeated that request several times and was told they didn't want to talk to me. So we wasn't granted an opportunity to at least talk to them about it. The issue about the tower, what's to say another tower couldn't be built on that property? I don't think there's no way that tower property could be used for anything but a potential tower or some kind of utility type use. Sorry, Abraham Lincoln wasn't here to confirm what, anyway, but the most dangerous thing, I live right down the street, I don't live far from there, school buses going in and out of these subdivisions on Highway 22, that's way more dangerous. That's happening during peak traffic time. That's an issue. And I agree that 1085 and 22 is a problem. But from what I understand, there's a roundabout being planned. The speed limit, I'm sure, will be reduced. So I think the parish is addressing that. And a lot of the fees and taxes that we're going to pay are going to go towards that. So we're carrying our weight in that regard. That's Rayford Oaks. I don't want a subdivision that looks like Rayford Oaks. There's no, except for the green spaces they preserve, there's no trees left in that place. There's some oak trees they preserved that were in certain areas, but the houses piled up right on top of each other. It's not something I would consider attractive if I was a resident, even in Timberlane across the street. That's what you will see. Look at, what does Timberlane look like on Highway 22? You see the back of a bunch of houses. That's it, and it's right on the highway. What we're proposing is a nice streetscape, some landscaping, trees, a pond set back. It's going to be a lot more attractive than any residential subdivision would be. And that's all I have unless there's more questions.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am. Your turn.
Maybe Rayford Oaks is not quite as nice as some of the developments Mr. Crosby has done, but it's very dear to all of us. The trees on there, we had someone come out and they gave us a value. I don't know what the dollar value was, but these trees, some of them are 600 years old. It has magnificent oaks on it. And the subdivision is really quite nice. The entrance is from Brewster Road. And we kept the property on 22, so they could always develop from that area with the entrance to remain on Brewster Road, if someone wanted to. As far as the tower, I don't think my cousin is going to lease any more property to another tower, and that tower's been there a long, long time, so I don't know how that was approved at the time, but it has been there quite some time, but it's not that noticeable from the highway. My only other statement is, please, as the other lady said, consider the residents along here. And there's lots of wonderful developments in St. Tammany, but I really feel like St. Tammany has taken paradise and turned it into a parking lot. And I know that's a phrase from a song that somebody sings, but I don't remember. But I feel like that's what's happening there. We have taken paradise and turning it into a parking lot or an RV area. It's just, also the drainage, there is a problem with the drainage to the back. And if they reroute that to the front along 22, those ditches, when it's a heavy rain, it's very, very close to coming over the road and our farm. So the drainage is a problem. And it goes down to 1085 to that creek. And it is a serious problem.
Okay.
I just ask again, please consider the residents.
Okay.
And I can furnish a copy of that plaque if anybody would like to see it, signed by Abraham Lincoln.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the other lady.
I would just like to reiterate to you all, it's not about the volume of traffic. It's about the kind of traffic. I have a friend who owns a 26-foot trailer and tows a boat. He's actually told me that there are times traveling on a 2-lane road that he has to pull out into the opposing line of traffic to make a 90-degree turn. It could just be a problem, and I'm just, again, 0.2 of a mile away from 1085. And as far as the roundabout, I've lived here 10 years. That's been being talked about for a long time. The whole idea that the speed limit could change, well, to okay this now is putting the cart before the horse. Let's put the roundabout in, let's correct the speed, lower the speed limit on 22, and then talk about commercial zoning, even though I'm opposed. This is an enclave of residential, perhaps the only enclave left of residential on 22. I just ask that we keep it that way. And one final thing is, from 22, you do not see the backs of houses in Timber Lane. I live there. We are bordered by trees, including on 22. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We've had for and against, we've had rebuttal, so I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Any commissioners wish to discuss this?
Can I say one or two more things?
You had a couple of minutes.
Just ready to mention the drainage. Our property drains onto your property right now. And you sounded like you didn't like that, which we're going to fix that. It's not going to do that anymore. It's going to go down 22 in the road, along the roadside square like it's supposed to. And I've already talked to Parish Engineering about it, and they're on, like I said, they've agreed to that concept. We've already surveyed, we might have to replace a few culverts, but it's not that, it's very feasible. That's what we plan to do. And I think about the turning onto 22. We've actually already submitted a driveway permit to DOTD. We went way beyond what we really need to do for a zoning change to make sure that everything's going to work. We studied drainage, we studied traffic. DOTD has already commented on the radiuses that we need for the driveway so that you don't have to cross the lane to make the turn. That's all being planned and considered. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Crawford.
Okay, basically, I chimed in lieu of seeing no one else chime in. Hearing what I've heard today, I'm not in favor of this project moving forward for everything that was said and on behalf of the residents. So in lieu of no other motion, I would make a motion to deny.
Okay, we have a motion to deny. Commissioner Randolph.
Yes, and I'd like to also add that the project itself, I have to say, is very, very interesting, and it seemed to be a lucrative opportunity for mobile homes, for boats, RVs, etc. My only concern is location, and I have to second that motion, Mr. Crawford.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to deny. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to deny carries.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next item is item 8, 2020-2140 ZC. Existing zoning is A1A Suburban District. Proposed zoning is ED1 Primary Education District. Parcel located on the west side of Louisiana Highway 40, south of Atwood Road, Covington, Ward 2, District 2. It's 10.018 acres. Petitioner Jones Fussell, LLP, Jeff Shane. Owner is St. Tammany Parish School Board, Council District 2. Staff?
The subject site is part of the existing Lee Road Junior High School development and consists of a school campus, including school buildings and recreation field. The requested ED1 Primary Education District will allow the existing uses on the site to come into compliance with the correct zoning designation, which will also allow for a future expansion of the school. As such, staff is in favor of the requested zoning.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Shane.
Good evening, Honorable Commission. Happy New Year. Jeff Shane on behalf of Jones Giselle, representing the St. Tammany Parish School Board in connection with this request for zoning. You may remember that this is the Lee Road School, and this matter has come before you before. There was a glitch, perhaps, as it relates to how the property was depicted on the vicinity map when it came before you in June, meaning that the entirety of the campus was not depicted on the vicinity map. The property has also been recently submitted to staff for administrative re-subdivision approval to combine the two parcels into one. So we appreciate the parish initiating this proceeding so as to correct any potential deficiency, if you will, as it relates to how the property was depicted when the matter was presented to you in June and later ordained by the parish. For those reasons, we respectfully request that you provide a ED1 recommendation to the council so that the entirety of the Lee Road Junior High School campus will be zoned appropriately for its not only current use, but for its historical use of many, many years. If any of you have any questions, I'll be glad to address them at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Shane.
Yes, sir.
Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this item? Seeing no one, I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Move for approval for the ED1.
Motion by Commissioner Willie, move for approval for ED1. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is item 9, 2020-2141ZC. Existing zoning is PUD, Plan Unit Development Overlay. Proposed zoning is A1, Suburban District, and RO, Rural Overlay. Parcel located on the east side of Bremerman Road, south of Louisiana Highway 190, Lacombe, Ward 4, District 7. It's 45.73 acres. Petitioner's Big Branch Apiary, LLC, Sherry Ben Lasso, and owner is the same. Council District Number 7. Staff?
The petition property was the subject of a 1995 zoning change to highway commercial and plan unit development to accommodate a planned nature retreat and subdivision. The design was never realized and the property is presently undeveloped. The current request is to rezone the property to accommodate a potential residential and agricultural uses, and staff is not opposed to the request as it's congruent with the site's comprehensive plan designation and is appropriate for the area.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, Sherry Ben Aissa on behalf of Big Branch Apiary.
Thank you.
Those are beekeepers. And my husband and I have the property, and our plan is to move there eventually. We have a few bees there. We'd like to extend that, the beekeeping part of it. Very small commercial beekeeping operation. And then potentially do a blueberry U-pick. The property butts up against the Tammany Trace. So there'd be access there, a little trail. But we have retained an engineer to help us with the site plan so that we could address any drainage issues, so that we could be kind to the land and kind to our neighbors. And so in order to do the bees and the blueberries legally, we need to do the rural overlay. So that's why we're requesting to have the change done.
Okay. Thank you. All right, I have 3 speaker cards. Janine Meads. Good evening.
Good evening, Chairman Doherty, and Happy New Year to all you other commissioners. It's been so long since I was in a group of people, I don't quite know how to act.
Yeah.
My name is Janine Meads, and I live in Big Branch, and actually, Sherry and her husband Tom are my newest neighbors. And when this property was owned a PUD many years ago, the whole neighborhood got up in arms about it, and we opposed it greatly. And we lived with the threat of this dense, they called it a nature development. It was very ill-conceived. Thank God it never was realized, and the people who owned it sold it to Sherry and her husband. And I speak for myself, but I was very pleased when I met Sherry and her husband and found out what they wanted to do with it. I'm very concerned about our neighborhood getting more violent. I don't know if you all know it, but we had a murder, a triple murder on the road that goes past this place in July. And it's a road that the residents of the community use a great deal. We walk it, we pick up the litter. It actually goes through the wildlife refuge and comes up the road called Lemieux. And it could have been us who happened on that horrible scene, or it could have been someone who got in the middle of the murders that were going on. So I'm very concerned about inviting strangers into the community and opening it up. This development abuts the Tammany Trace, and it abuts the Big Branch Marsh. Is my time up?
No.
Okay. The plot that Sherry owns is quite low. There's some higher sections. I'm sure she's provided you a topographical map. But I would just please ask you to be cognizant of the fact that I've lived in this neighborhood for 30 years, and when I first came, we didn't have flooding. This last year, we had 5 different episodic floods. So this property is being impacted severely by sea level rise. And the Big Branch Marsh, for right now, is soaking up that water. But it's a sensitive and critical area, and I think we need to do all we can to keep it natural. So what Sherry and her group are trying to do, I must say I'm in favor of. See, I told you I didn't know how to act.
Okay, thank you. All right, James J. Mutry. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the commission, and Happy New Year. My name is James Mutry, and I live 6165 Berman Road, which is south of where the proposed property is that Miss Sherry and her husband are have acquired. And my wife and I have been in our property since 1988. So we've seen a lot of changes lately, but it's a very unique area, and we like to keep it as green as possible. We've been through, Katrina and everything else, and we've lost some trees and kept some trees too. So we're trying to keep our trees and keep the neighborhood green and very unique. And I'm just, very much for the Big Branch apiary. It's something that fits like right in to the neighborhood, to our unique area. And I think it's, a great opportunity for us to have neighbors like that in that neighborhood. My wife and I are members of Sierra Club and the Arbor Day Foundation. And we try to keep all our trees, on our property. And we'd like to keep that area green and as far away from, any kind of other development as possible. So I think it's a very, very good fit for my neighborhood of all these years.
Okay.
And I thank y'all very, very much.
Thank you. We have one other card, Sherry Ben Isom.
I'm sorry, Chairman, that was an error on my part. I filled out a card when I,
Okay,
all right, sorry.
all right. We'll go to rebuttal now, and I don't know that we have anyone that's wants to speak against on this. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak against? All right, I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Crawford.
Yes, I'm familiar with the area. It's a big branch right down from Lacombe, and everything that all the speakers have said are right on point. It's a beautiful area. This would be an enhancement, obviously, and to remove a PUD, an existing PUD, and make it a single-family residence with this type of potential future activity, I think is a positive. So I move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Crawford to approve. Commissioner Randolph.
Yes, sir, and I'm looking forward to the blueberries, but I'll second.
All right, we have a second. Commissioner Drum.
I'll second, but
You
I also,
second-
yeah,
second
but I
the
also have come on. I have a niece who lives up in New Jersey, and she's a bee raiser, and we get samples of the different kinds of honeys that she takes from the bees. And actually, I think it's very nice that we can have something that actually benefits nature rather than something that is destroying nature. And I'm all for this. So that's why I second and third this.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Kirk?
No, sir, I turned it off, actually.
Oh, okay. It went off while I wasn't looking. Thank you. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you. Y'all have a good evening. All right, item 10, which was 2020-2142, and 11, 2020-2143, were both postponed. So we'll go to item 12, which is a text change. It's 2020-2153-ZC, an ordinance to amend the St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 130, Unified Development Code, Article 4, Zoning District Division 40, CBF 1, Community Based Facilities District to add use recreational vehicle park. Staff?
The draft ordinance that's before you is to amend Division 40, Article 4, Chapter 130, which is the Community-Based Facilities District, to add a new permitted use, which is recreational facilities, or vehicle parks. Currently, the only zoning district that allows recreational vehicle parks is NC 6, the Public Cultural and Recreational District. This would add an additional district that would allow RV parks, making the total 2 in the UDC.
All right, thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this item? Okay. I don't have any cards on it. Yeah, it's a text change. Carlos, you want to speak?
I'll wait.
Okay.
I won't remove my mask because I think everyone can hear me. Let me just say, I have some concerns about the change that's being made here. And and I'm wondering, if you read the other permitted uses, which obviously I did, and I won't do it here because obviously I think probably the other people are very familiar with the other permitted uses. But the interesting thing is the minimum standards for specific uses, which is also cited in the thing. And if you read that, I think there are some questions, I think, regarding what your, if any changes need to be made to that section. It would seem to me that what you should do if you're not going to approve this is to postpone it and look at the standards that are in there too, because I think some of the standards need to be modified because, and I will point out a couple of them. And well, I don't want to change this one, but one of the interesting ones is prohibited uses in there. It says the occupancy of a recreational vehicle for a period exceeding 3 months in any 12-month period shall be deemed permanent occupancy and is prohibited. Now, the only person is a person who's operating that is going to know whether it is. I can't believe that someone's going to be watching to see if someone's sitting in there for longer than 3 months on a thing. And I guess my question would be, is if someone moves from one spot to another spot in the same RV park, is that considered a move that is permitted or not? Well, a consideration there. I don't know if that needs to be changed. The drainage requirements. It says surface drainage plans for the entire park shall be submitted and reviewed by the parish council, and permit division shall determine if the plan is compatible with the existing drainage pattern of the area. The parish council is going to become part of this. I mean, it would seem to me that is an error there, and needs to be corrected. It would seem to me that it's either the permit office that's going to be approving this, and I can't believe the zoning commission would get involved with that, but I think that's a change that needs to be made. There's another section in here, site plan approval, and it reads, all recreational vehicle parks must apply for rezoning as well as comply with the procedures established by Chapter 125 pertaining to subdivisions for development of land. And then it goes on to talk about the requirements. But the interesting thing is that, and let me read the next sentence. It says, all applicants filing for zoning of a recreational vehicle park must submit a site development plan to the Department of Development and Planning and Development consisting of the following information. Now, it seems to me like if it's a permitted use, you don't have to submit, right? If it's a permitted use, you don't have to submit it. It would seem to me that you don't have, I'm suggesting or believe that there needs to be a modification here, because if it's a permitted use, why would you have to submit a development plan? Okay. There's J then on the thing. It says zoning commission findings and recommendations. After a public hearing, the zoning commission may recommend approval subject to any stipulations made regarding the companion site development plan. So if you have a permitted use already, do you have to have a site development plan? I would contend you do not. And so then why do you have then the zoning commission finding the recommendation? I think, assuming that you're going to follow the Chapter 125, that maybe you're looking at the planning commission now doing some review of this as opposed to the zoning commission, because to make sure that that this site development plan, assuming that you proceed with site development plan based on subdivision regulations, that's where you're going with this. So I think that you need to look at this with regard to that, and I think at the very least that you need to postpone this consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Matthew Carter.
Yes, that's me. Actually, I had a question. We have a lot of people. My name is Matthew Carter. I live at 27052. We have a lot of people here that are against this and wanted to speak against it. We didn't know this gentleman was going to take this much time. Is there any way we can get more time to speak against this? Because as you can see, we've got quite a few people.
We can add a couple of minutes, but we're not going to be here all night listening to everybody.
Go ahead and go. Ms. Darlene, and then I was going to speak after Darlene.
All right.
We can have a public hearing, postpone and have a public hearing.
No, that's the thing, we don't want to do that.
I was supposed to break ground today.
Yeah. They shouldn't even be here.
you are?
I'm Darlene Nelson. I live at 27454 Sneed Drive in Abita Springs.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commission members, and neighbors. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. As I said, my name's Darlene Nelson. I live in Abita Springs on the now-closed Abita Springs Golf Course. I'm here representing the majority of homeowners and landowners to voice our opposition to Ordinance 6548. 13 years ago, my husband and I searched St. Tammany Parish for a place to build our new home. We considered ourselves lucky to build our dream home on the Abita Springs Golf Course. The area is picturesque, quiet, and a true example of serene country living in our beautiful St. Tammany Parish. Much to our dismay, at the end of February 2020, the golf course ceased to operate, and we were told it was up for sale. Mr. Chris Eddy, the current property owner, proposed a new development on his property, a recreational vehicle RV park. Fortunately, in the middle of December of last year, a local business owner informed one of my neighbors that an RV park development was going through the process of being approved on the golf course property. This RV park would include 189 RV sites, along with an arcade, a welcome center, a convenience store selling alcohol, a lazy river, dog parks, playgrounds, pool, cabana, and all the activities associated with this type of development. I then reached out to our councilwoman, Mrs. Cheryl Tanner. Mrs. Tanner was very much aware of Mr. Eddy's site development plan. She introduced and authored Ordinance 6548 at the November 25th, 2020 council meeting, which would amend the CBF1 zoning to include recreational vehicle RV parks, parish-wide. Mrs. Tanner informed me she encouraged Mr. Eddy to meet with the neighbors to discuss his development plan. If the neighbors are okay with it, she said, then it will be considered. This was back in November of 2020. It wasn't until December 17th that Mr. Eddy reached out to one of our neighbors, Mr. Kerry Clausen, who's here tonight, to request a meeting with him. Mr. Clausen told Mr. Eddy that several neighbors are aware of his proposed development, and we all want to meet with him. We put together a meeting in less than 24 hours with Mr. Eddy, and it was attended by more than 50 neighbors in less than 24 hours. Mr. Eddy's site development plan was met with strong opposition, and the meeting ended with him saying he was going to let Mrs. Tanner know that he would withdraw his proposal. He emailed Mrs. Tanner as well as myself with regard to his withdrawal. I have provided copies of these emails to the commission members in the packet I handed out earlier. It also should be noted, a petition against the RV development was signed by 31 property owners, along with emails from neighbors opposing the development. I have also provided copies of this in the packet. This proposed development is in the middle of our neighborhood, with some homes that have been there for decades to newly constructed homes to home sites ready to build on. This is a developing community. I ask you, commission members, would you want an RV park in your neighborhood? Better yet, since this amendment affects all of St. Tammany Parish, do you think anyone who resides in the area of a CBF1 zoning would want to wake up and find an RV park in their neighborhood, along with all the activities that go along with the place that one goes to camp and party? In conclusion, we do not want an RV park in our neighborhood. Amending CBF1 to include recreational vehicle RV parks seems to conflict with some of the current restrictions as outlined in Article 7, minimum standards for specific use, Division 1, generally, Section 130-2213-33. I have provided copies of Article 7 to the commission members. Allow me to read a few of the current restrictions. Under locational standards, number 1, campgrounds should not be located adjacent to developed or developing residential areas in such a way that the traffic or noise generated by campgrounds would interfere with the surrounding neighborhoods. Number 2, the design of campground ingress and egress points and the internal road circulation system shall be regulated so as to be compatible with the surrounding road system, as well as safe and convenient for vehicular traffic and emergency traffic at all times. And number 3, the location of RV campgrounds shall be located in areas where fragile environmental areas such as wetlands and wildlife domains will not be adversely affected. Also, campgrounds shall not be located near hazardous areas where rapid flooding or ground subsidence occurs. So we stand before you in strong terms. We voice our opposition to Ordinance 6548, which is the amendment of CBF 1 to include recreational vehicle RV parks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. I have one more card. Cassie Hope.
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. I am not a resident there yet. I was supposed to break ground today. This has been put on hold because we are waiting to find out if I'm going to have an RV parked 150 feet from my backyard. We've had the lot for a year, and we've been praying and architects and all of this going on, and now here we are facing the opportunity of not building our dream home because I'm going to have an RV park. I'll have an RV park in front of my house, and I'll have, I think it's 30 RVs on one side and 30 RVs in behind my house. And that's not something where I want to raise my 3 kids.
Okay.
And I'm just asking you guys to just kind of put yourselves in our shoes and not pass this, and not just now, but forever. I don't want to build a house and in 3 years have to come back here to defend my own home. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir. Come forward. I need you to fill out a speaker card.
I did. I'm Matthew Carter.
Okay.
So, again, I'm Matthew Carter, 27052 Sneed Drive. The points I wanted to make, the first one is, being the CBF 1, this was actually brought up in 2019. I believe it was August in the zoning board. And there was another golf course that wanted to rezone or something like that, and this was upheld to stay. Golf courses will stay this, specifically for this reason, okay? So I wanted to make that point. The second point, as Ms. Darlene noted, Article 7, it specifically states developed or developing. I've been out there since 1992. When those 4 houses for that golf course, the first 4 houses that were built back in, I think, the late 70s, early 80s, the model homes, my parents bought one. I've moved over next door because I married my next door neighbor, okay? I've been there since 92. We were the oldest houses there. You know, that's it. This isn't, you know, most of these houses and stuff, they've happened since Katrina. You know, this is a developing community. It's not developed. It's not like there's 5 houses and it's going to stay that way. People are buying houses. I've spoken to people.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I at least have a couple more minutes, sir, just to make the other couple points?
We understand, you know, from everybody here that you're opposed to this change.
Well, I mean,
go ahead.
You know, so that was that. One of the other points when we did speak to Mr. Eddy, Chris Eddy, he said, "Oh well, the RV resort up the road is zone CBF 1." Well, it's actually zone NC6, half of it, and the other half is CBF 1. Just because half of that RV resort is zone CBF 1 doesn't mean that we should make this change. They should either comply and change their zoning to NC6 for the second half, or they need to say, hey, look, y'all are out of y'all zoning, y'all ordinance, and y'all should stop. It shouldn't have to come down on us as a subdivision. And the last one, I noticed the resolution specifically states health, safety, and well-being of the citizens. I'm a firefighter. Been a firefighter for 12 years. There's nothing about an RV resort that says anything about for the health, safety, and well-being of the citizens of this parish that we need to add this. That's absolutely absurd, and it's a smack in the face to the people who actually do work for the health, safety, and well-being of the parish. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we've heard everyone, not necessarily everyone, but we know from what's been said and the reaction of those of you here, we have a good idea that you're opposed to it. So I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Rest.
Yeah, the question I have is for more for staff. So, I didn't realize there was, when I read this originally, that we had a specific piece of property, and that was what I was kind of curious about, if it would retroactively change what could be done with some property. So what I'm really seeing is here, we got a piece of property that was a golf course that was CBF1, is that what I'm saying? And now, under the old ordinance, they couldn't have put a recreational vehicle park there, is that correct? If we change it, they could. Okay. I'm very familiar with the Beta Springs Country Club. Matter of fact, I probably played a couple rounds there over time. Probably had a couple beers in the clubhouse. But reality is, I've been there up until it closed. And I know what the people are talking about. There's been new homes steadily being built around the course. It just seems totally inappropriate to think, let me finish, that we would turn that piece of property into an RV park that just winds through this whole neighborhood.
Well, it's not only this part, or
It could be any of the.
anything that's
Exactly.
CBF1 could have an
Exactly.
RV park.
I mean, to me, it seems like if there's properties that are already RV parks and we need to change, they need to come to get their fix, not so much these people having to prevent this being done to the property that surrounds them. I move to deny this ordinance change.
All right, motion by Commissioner Rest to deny. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
I'll second the motion. For the exact same reason. It's like a backdoor movement. So if the gentleman that owns the property that the golf course is on, if he wants to build an RV park, he can come ask for that zoning instead of changing the zoning to facilitate an RV park. I just want to make that known. So I do second the motion to deny.
All right, Commissioner Randolph.
I think it's Drum. Drum.
Oh,
Commissioner Drum.
yeah, I'm sorry. I was looking at his name. I apologize. This is totally wrong. You have a neighborhood that's building up nice homes. You have a piece of ground that used to be a recreational area for people that used to run around with sticks hitting little white balls. And then you want to put in these very noisy, very smelly, probably rowdy, yeah, that's a good word, or just stay in one place for a long period of time. And eventually I can see this turning into a permanent trailer park. And I cannot see that. These people have been there. This man wants to come in and change the property, and he's not even doing it right. He's having somebody else do it for him. And so I'm totally against this, and I third the motion.
Okay. Commissioner Randolph.
Well, all is spoken, and I have to concur with everything that's been said.
Okay, Commissioner Willie.
Yeah, I just have one question of staff. What zoning classifications are RV parks allowed in?
Is the NC 6.
And that's the only one?
Well, NC 6, and then you have the HC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So they would be allowed in those two as well?
Mhm.
Okay, I just wanted that as information, yeah. I agree with everybody else opposing this, for sure. Thank
All
you.
right. Anything else, Bertie? Okay. We have a motion and a second to deny. Please vote.
The motion to deny carries.
Please, please keep in mind now, that this can, let's see, no, this would not be appealed, right? Pardon?
It can be.
It can be? Okay. The property owner could appeal this if they wanted to, but it appeals to the council, so be sure y'all talk to Cheryl. All right? Y'all have a good evening, be safe.
Can I just ask a simple question about that? Just that statement about it being appealed? I didn't realize a resolution could be appealed. Zoning change denial can be appealed, but this is a resolution from the parish itself.
My legal counsel over here just told me that it could be appealed. Yes.
Would that be 2 days from now or a month?
10 days.
10 days. So it can't even be discussed tomorrow.
The appeal has to be filed within 10 days, it's not going to turn within 10 days.
Another question? This is on the agenda for the council meeting on Thursday. Is it squashed now?
I would, Emily, the council can't, they can't take action on it, right?
They will receive notice of the denial.
Okay. All right, the council will receive notice of denial. They have to do something with that item on their agenda, whether it's postpone it, whether it's remove it, or something, but, get with your council person, Cheryl Tanner, and be sure that she's aware of it. And I'm sure, Ross and Helen will be sure that it gets, moved forward to them so that they know that it was denied. Y'all have a good evening, be safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, the plan review cases, we have one. It's item.
Are you still talking with us?
Pardon?
Are you still talking with us? Oh, okay.
Item is 2020-2130-PR-USE, Christian Brothers Automotive. The corridor is Highway 21, planned corridor overlay. Zoning is HC2, Highway Commercial District. The use size is 5,560 square feet. Petitioner is Thomas Dugan, LaCroix Engineering. Owner is Ron, I'm not going to try and pronounce it. Parcel located on the north side of Louisiana Highway 21, west of Cherokee Rose Lane, Covington, Ward 1, District 1. This was postponed from the 12/1 meeting. Staff?
The applicant has revised the required site and landscape plan to adhere to the required 100-foot building setback and is no longer requesting a variance. Currently, they meet all the standards listed under the Highway 21 Plan Corridor District Overlay Regulations. Staff recommends approval of the proposal subject to all applicable regulations and the following conditions. They connect to the existing stub-out provided along the adjacent property to the west in order to provide greater connectivity along Highway 21. They provide an outdoor lighting plan that meets the Unified Development Code, and they revised the planting plan to include shrubs to screen the 3 new parking spaces shown along the southeastern portion of the site plan, as well as revise the planting plan to include 1 Class A tree to the west side of the 3 new parking spaces.
Thank you. All right, who's on the phone? Petitioner? You're on the phone.
Yes, this is Thomas Dugan with LaCroix Engineering. First, I want to start off by saying thank you for allowing us to attend this virtually. I know it's requested last month that we attend in person, and it's something we strongly considered. However, we being from the Atlanta area and Christian Brothers being from Houston area and the rising COVID cases recently, we felt it would be best not to make the trip down there. So thank you again for allowing us to do this virtually. If you remember from the last meeting, I think a big part of the postponement was due to concerns from the adjacent Firestone. And as requested, I reached out and spoke with Councilman Dean regarding this project. And per conversation, he had no issues with this development. And at the time the Firestone went in, there was a different vision for the area, and it was the first use of its kind going in the area. So things have developed differently than the parish anticipated, and at this point, he didn't have an issue with the proposed Christian Brothers. He also said at the time that we spoke that no other adjacent property owners had reached out with concerns about this project. And Billy Green Jr., representing Christian Brothers, is also on the line with me, and I will let him speak to the requested cross-access connection.
Yes, this is Billy Green speaking. Christian Brothers we don't have any issue concerning the cross-access that was listed as a condition in the staff report. However, I guess the only issue that we would have is that if this is listed as a condition of approval, that means since we don't have the ability to force the adjacent property to actually grant us a cross-access easement, that could be problematic in the future of us trying to develop. And I think it was mentioned also that there was an existing stub out for future development on the adjacent side. I took a look at that, and I don't believe that was actually a stub out. And I say that because of the distance of that area. It looks like it's just a turnaround, an additional turnaround area for a car that would be parked in the last parking space. Also, there's a light pole that obstructs, if that was to be an access, there's a light pole blocking it. And there's an electrical pole pretty much a couple feet outside of it. So, again, we don't have any issue with that if we were able to get it. But if it's listed as a condition of approval, that kind of puts us in a box, considering that we can't force another property owner to do anything.
Okay.
I guess, would it be possible to revise that condition to read something more along the lines of make an effort to provide connection to the adjacent property, and we could provide some sort of documentation showing that we've made a substantial effort to do that?
Aaron, is that, or Helen, what?
This is not in the ordinance for the Highway 21 overlay. It's something that's always been requested when building permits come in along 21 to provide greater connection between adjacent developments and, you know, not block traffic for 21, but it's nothing that we can necessarily hold them to. We can certainly make it a request that they attempt.
Okay, did you understand? Did you understand?
I believe so.
Go ahead.
I guess I can.
I'm right here. So we couldn't hear it that well, but I'm assuming that what was stated is that we need to make an effort to get that cross access. I couldn't understand because she said it wasn't required by code, so I don't know if that was a recommendation or is still a condition.
But to answer the question, this is Helen Lambert. If you agree this evening and the commission votes in favor, or it's part of the condition, then you will have to provide it.
Okay. Did you understand?
Is there opportunity to modify that condition this evening, or would that put us on the next month's agenda?
Well,
I guess
you're wanting to postpone this to see if,
You can either request to have it approved as proposed and see, you know, if the board is gonna vote in favor or against your request. I mean, is there a possibility for you to connect to the adjacent property, or did you explore the possibility without having to, you know, or did you contact the adjacent property owners?
We had not done that as of yet. It was my understanding that that was a part of the last meeting's staff report, because we were requesting a variance on a setback to be in line with the existing buildings. As far as it being included on this staff report, I didn't actually see that until today. So, I mean, Christian Brothers has somewhat of it puts us somewhat in a bind to agree that we will get cross access when we cannot, we can always guarantee what we can do. We can guarantee that we can even provide a cross-access, somewhat pavement that connects to the adjacent property. But what we would have trouble doing is guaranteeing that we can get that cross-access. Plus, to my understanding, based on your landscape buffer, and Thomas may be better to speak at this, is that it would also impact what the landscape requirements would be, from my understanding.
Well, you would not have to provide landscaping in the area where it would connect. However, you know, this is for you to make the decision this evening if you want to submit as proposed, or if you want to postpone to look into potential connectivity. I see on the north side of the property, it appears that there's a very large drainage swale. So I don't know if there's any possibility for you to cross that. And then on the south side, there's a building. So as stated, we encourage it. However, I'm not 100% sure if it is possible or not.
Well, when you say as proposed, our site plan that we proposed did not include cross-access. That's not what we proposed. So when we would prefer to go forward as the site plan that we submitted.
Okay, well, if that's what you would like to do, then the commission will, you know, vote for or against your request this evening.
And that's how we would like to move forward. And just to kind of piggyback off on the landscaping that Billy mentioned earlier, if we were to provide cross-access, it would, we'd have to remove all the trees, the existing trees in that 50-foot planting buffer. We'd have to plant back per the county ordinance, but it would take years for the trees to get as big as the existing trees. I guess as far as an aesthetic and viewpoint, it would take a while to get those trees back.
Okay. Helen, you have anything else?
I mean, we understand the circumstances, as I said. You know, I think that at this point is for the commission to look at your plan the way it's being proposed and to vote on it.
Okay.
Which
All right.
include connectivity.
Do what, Ross?
Well, the current plan does or does not.
Does not. The current plan does not show connectivity. So that's the way the petitioner, it wants to submit it. And it's for the commission to, vote in favor of the request as proposed or not.
Well, I think we can also, maybe Ross is going to say, we could also, vote on the proposed plan with the staff recommendations excluding.
That's correct.
Excluding connecting to the stub out.
That's correct.
Correct? Okay. Did y'all get that on the line?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay. All right. You have anything else before I bring it back to the commission here? I would like for you to stay on the line.
Yeah, don't go anywhere.
Okay.
We'll be right here.
I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Fitzwater.
All right, as best I can. I'm going to make a motion to approve as shown on the plan, excluding staff recommendation, which would be bullet point number 1, connecting to the existing stub out.
Okay. Anything else?
No, sir.
Commissioner Crawford.
I'll second the motion.
Second by Commissioner Crawford. Commissioner Willie.
Question of staff. Connectivity is not required in our code, right?
Correct.
So how can we make it a condition to the developer?
Well,
Because we don't have conditional uses anymore, so that's what throws me off.
if you remember, there's a parcel of land on Highway 21, the Chase Bank, and the shopping center. That was one of the requirement that they share the same driveway. And we've
Whose
made it
requirement? Whose requirement? The parish's requirement?
it was a DOTD requirement.
The OTD requirement?
Yeah.
Okay, that's where it
How-
comes in at. That's where-
However, in the past, we've made it a policy
To make an effort, huh?
always make an effort and
I agree
to
with that,
encourage
but-
the connection when there's a possibility to make a connection.
So you know, this is on a state road.
Right.
And they have to go apply for a driveway permit through DOTD, and they may require them to.
They may require them after
Ron,
we vote.
Ross.
Without it, they may
to
require
get
it.
you
So I
on
want to let
microphone.
the no petitioner know.
I'm done.
Okay.
So,
All right, anything else, Bert?
that's it.
Okay. We got a motion and a second to approve with the exception of, the, item 1 on the, landscape chart, right? On the stub out, yeah.
Bullet point 1.
Bullet
Okay.
point 1, correct.
Well,
All right, do we have any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to approve excluding number 1 carries.
Thank you. All right.
there's one down here.
I'll just clarify for 1 second. It's the first bullet point. It's not the numeral 1 under informational items. It's the first bullet point under staff recommendations.
Okay, all right. So we got that clarified? All right.
Hope so.
All right, new business, we don't have any. Old business, we don't have any. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn, thank you.